Page 16, Good Time Blues. This page they're introducing you to a style of music called blues. Up at the top they talk about the 12 measure blues, the 12 bar blues. There's a specific set of chords and an order the chords appear in and a typical 12 bar blues patterns. 12 bar, a bar is a measure, same difference. 12 bars is 12 measures. And they give you up at the top, you get 4 bars or 4 measures of one chord. That's the I, Roman numeral I. Well, look at Good Time Blues. If you look at all across the first line, they're all one chords. Okay. Then you get 2 measures or 2 bars of 4 chord. And if the second line, the first 2 measures, that's 4 chord. Then you get 2 measures of 1 chord. That would be the last 2 measures of the second line. And then a 5, 4, and 2 1 chord. That total of 12 measures. In the bottom line, you'll see a 5 chord, a 4 chord, and 2 1 chords. And you simply keep repeating this pattern over and over and over to whatever. And that's the 12 bar blues progression. If you want to write something in blues, this is a good solid chord progression to follow. Doesn't have to be in the key of C, it could be in whatever key you want, but whatever it is, those are the chords you're going to use. Let's just talk about this piece for a little bit and I'll come back to the blues thing. 4/4 time, right hand, just the notes first. You're in this position, so all these notes on the first line for the 1 chord, it's going to be in this position. Rhythm, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and get that, I hope. Second line, now we have to move up to the 4 chord position, which is up here. So you finish the first line here, you go here. Move both hands at one time if you want. Move one hand at a time if you want. I'll come back to that in a minute. But for the second line, we want to be in this position. And we're using B flats here. They put in flat. Okay, so it's here. And we get 2 measures of that, and then you go back to the 1 chord. And then the last line. Now we'll go up to the 5 chord position. Now here, you have a B natural in the lower staff. A B flat in the upper staff. They can do that. They do. Because some people think, oh, if I have a B flat in one thing, I got to have a B flat in the other thing, and that's not true. Each staff is independent. And then for the second measure of the last line, you go down to the 4 chord position. You got an A natural here, but you got an A flat in the other. And an E flat. And then finally the 1 chord. And that's weird at the end. Because the B flat is held down, you see the tie? The last 2 notes of the piece, B flat. And you're adding the C to it. So now you got both notes down. What I suggest to accommodate this, for the second C, play that either with 3rd finger or 2nd. 3rd finger is better, because then you can play the B flat with 2nd finger like they're saying, but you don't cross over the thumb, and hold that down and then use your 3rd finger to add the C to it, because this is a little more comfortable than this. I mean, you can do that. I just find this other more comfortable. So the last 2 measures in the right hand, it's here, 5, 4, 3, 1, 3. And then hold that down. Like so. That's what I recommend. The left hand, they've got just the chords. But there's a note at the bottom. Now we can take these chords, and instead of just playing this chord, we can play quarter notes on each beat. I'm going to recommend we do that, because that's a lot more interesting than just holding that thing down. So I'm going to recommend that we you. I mean, you can do a both. Sometimes play the whole note, sometimes play quarter notes. When we do the play with me, I'm going to do the quarter notes at the bottom. This pattern throughout the whole piece, except the last measure. The last measure, the whole note, we just hold that down on that one. Now articulation, they got staccatos in here. A nice light wrist staccato. You don't have staccatos everywhere, just some places, so be careful. With second line, first measure, that's not staccato. And the idea is we want some contrast, so we're not going to do staccatos all the time. But you're doing staccato if you do the quarter notes in the left hand, you're doing staccato. Regardless of what the right hand is doing, you're doing staccato in the left. And if that's a challenge for you to do legato here and staccato here, then you may want to just do staccato in both to make it easier. But I would encourage you to go ahead and do legato in the right hand and staccato in the left for those two, and see if you can get your hands to work that out. It's easier for some people than others. Last line, those are not staccatos in the eighth note type thing, so yeah. Dynamic wise, well, you're starting out sort of loud. That's the right hand. You keep the left hand soft, so it's, and the left hand, by the way, is staccato too. It's this. We want to hear the right hand. Don't let these chords get in the way. In the second line, you're starting out loud. That's the right hand. The left hand is just sort of loud or medium soft or something. Keep the left hand out of the way. And then the third measure over, you're back down to sort of loud. And then the last line, you're loud. Then sort of loud. And then soft. So, you end it soft. And that's the dynamics. Once you learn it, you can alter the dynamics. How do you feel it should go? They don't give you speed. It's just a nice lazy blues type. Whatever you feel it should go, that's the speed. Then the only other thing we have to do is we have to add a blues style to the piece. Blues, swing, and jazz, they're all kind of the same approach. And that is, when you have eighth notes, you'd never play them even unless the music specifically says play even or something to that effect. You always swing the eighth notes. That is, the eighth notes are always going to be long, short pattern. We don't count it 1 and 2 and 3 and. We count it, we swing the counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You gotta get into the music. If it's a blues, swing, or jazz style piece, you just do it. Automatically. Just the eighth notes, nothing else. And so the question is, well, why don't they just write that rhythm in the music? And the answer is because it's not accurate. You see this long short pattern? That's not a dotted rhythm. And it's not a triplet rhythm. It's in between. And it's a felt thing, so it's not always the same. You feel this long short. Some are going to be shorter than others. And that's why they just do the eighth notes, and it's understood that you will swing them. And that's what we're going to do in the play with me. I want to swing those eighth notes because it's important in blues, swing, and jazz to do that. Now I want to talk a little bit about moving hands around. Now, this might be a little more advanced. If you're struggling here, you can skip this part, but this will help you later on. So hopefully if you're struggling, you just go back and start this book again and go through up to this point, because it's important that you get this stuff. At the end of the first line, you're here. At the beginning of the second line, you need to be here. Well, in the left hand, if you play the staccatos, you got time after you play it to just come up here for the left hand. For the right hand, you're ending here and your next note is here. I suggest you simply reach up, extend out, and lift up. You want to lift up, there's a little silence between. And then once you play it, you can collapse. This way you're not going here to here in both hands. The last measure, the first line going on, it's here. See, I'm only having to deal with the left hand here because I'm just reaching out and doing this in the right hand. Then in the second measure, the second line going to the third, you're here, and we want to go back to here. Well, it's the same thing. The left hand's doing this, just go down. But for the right hand, you're here, and you need to be here. Well, I suggest you scrunch your hand up and just move your little finger down. So it's here. The second measure, the second line going on is here. So in that way, it's like you're only moving one hand because the other hand's kind of working its way around the keyboard. Then at the end of the second line, you're here. The third line, you got to be up here. With the left hand, it's the same thing. You're just bouncing up. Can you do that? Now going for the right hand, you have a rest, so you just get out of the way. You have to get out of the way on that because the left hand needs this area, and you're in the way, so you got to get out. So when the left hand moves up, then you got time to get up here. So just get it out of the way, and you can aim it afterward. So the last measure of the second line is here. So then you got time to do this. Then in this, going from the first to the second measure, here to here, again you got to rest in the right hand. So and then going to the third measure, again the left hand just going to come down, and you got to rest in the right hand. Type thing and do that. That's what I would recommend on this, because we do work out these hand movements very carefully because the beat's got to go on. You can't hesitate the beat. You can't mess up that rhythm. You've got to fall in line with that. Miss a note occasionally if you have to. Hopefully you don't. But don't mess up the rhythm. Now there is a retardando there at the end. See that in the last two measures at the bottom. Above the staff there's an RIT period. A retardando, you can slow down a little bit. We're not going to slow down with a metronome because the metronome won't slow down, but you would feel that slow down. Now if we're going to repeat this and keep going with more patterns, don't slow down. Save the slowing down to the last time. So let's play this together. I'll give us 4 counts. It's 4/4 time. We'll go slow. I'm not doing dynamics. You can do the dynamics. We're just checking notes and rhythms, and I am going to do the quarter notes in the left hand. Now we are going to swing the eighth notes. Boy, you might need to write all this down. I don't know. 1, 2, ready and go, and 1 and 2 and 3. And 3 and 4 and off.